If you sell high-ticket consulting, mentorship, coaching, info products or services, this video is for you. And it's going to walk you through in explicit detail exactly how to run the most effective one-call close sales process. Now, if we haven't already met, my name is Grant Eilertson. For 10 years, all I did was commission-only sales. And I racked up well over $20 million worth of sales for myself. And then I went on to train and manage some of the fastest growing sales teams in the online coaching and education space. Then I moved into brokering financing solutions and ultimately founded SimpleCheck, which is the first and only legal instant lead pre-qualification service for high-ticket companies. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm pulling back the curtain and basically ripping out some of the most valuable trainings from my Influence Mastery sales training system to put them out for free here on YouTube for you is this. My hope is that once you go through this course, you fully understand exactly how to close anyone that's closable. And then you tell your sales manager or the founder of your company that we need to use SimpleCheck because I can close anyone that's closable. So please fill my calendar up with only people who can afford to buy, because that's exactly what SimpleCheck does. Now, this is no holds bar, completely step-by-step tactical how to run a sales call end to end to have the highest probability of closing. These, again, are modules ripped straight from my Influence Mastery sales training system that our students use to close an average of 60% of their live calls or more in industries where 30% was considered great. Now, if you do end up wanting to go through the entire Influence Mastery sales training system and use Coach Grant GPT, which is an AI model trained exclusively on the entire 44 and a half hours worth of sales training, feel free to check out the description box below. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into this free course. Enjoy.
Effective selling is not telling. And you need to grasp this principle in order to successfully influence people's decision-making process. Again, effective selling is not telling. Ultimately, a well-designed sales or influence process finds its backbone in effective questions. Hence why this is on the board behind me, right? In order to be great with sales, we've got to be great at asking questions because of this one simple principle. If I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. Think about this. Anytime that someone feeds information into your brain, you're passing that information through your judgment system, identifying whether or not you believe it to be true. And less effective than the source of this information when it comes to like deciding whether or not this is actually true is, do I believe it? Is it in alignment with my belief systems? Does this align with how I think about things? And so this is where the 7 questions was born. And inside of the sales training specifically, you'll see how to engineer questions effectively to mitigate objections on the front end before you ever even get to the pitch, which is what you need to be doing. Okay, but just as a brief example, I'm not going to sit here with a prospect and tell them about how great I am and how amazing my product is and why it's perfect for them. Instead, I'll just ask, well, I suppose I'm just curious, what is it that makes you think I would even be the right person to help you solve this? Because you coming to your own conclusion and telling me why you think I could help you is dramatically more effective than me trying to pitch slap you or effectively tell you why I am great. Because again, you're going to filter it through your own judgment system. So last time, selling is not telling. And if I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. So as you go through and you apply these different sales principles, advanced question patterns, and all sorts of things like that, just remember, this is foundational level. If I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. All right, I hate to burst your bubble, but really, I don't. I just got to lay it out for you straight. Nobody wants to buy your shiny shit. And I understand that that's not fun to hear because you've put so much blood, sweat, effort, and tears into building your own amazing product, solution, offer, or maybe you worked really hard to land a fucking awesome gig selling a great product that you fully believe in. But at the end of the day, no one cares. No one cares except for you. Ultimately, all people care about is what it means for them. Okay, so remember this, commit it to memory. Nobody wants to buy your shiny shit. When you feel compelled to start going down the rabbit hole of discussing deliverables, right? Discussing your shiny shit, stop yourself. And remember that all they care about is what it means for them. So, this is your reminder. I'm going to paint the picture for you here. What you're selling is Hawaii, not the airplane ride. You see, you're not talking about how great the cushions are and how much legroom you're going to have and, oh, the fact that there's a little TV screen in front of you all the way. And, you know, if you plug in your headphones, maybe you won't hear the kid crying 4 aisles ahead, or that you won't feel the guy behind you kicking your chair every couple seconds as he maneuvers around. And, you know, you're going to love the Coca-Cola that's totally free and the only $2 shots, right? No one gives a fuck about that. All they care about is Hawaii. They're only taking the plane to get to Hawaii. They're only using the deliverables of your offer to get where they want to go. The plane is not sexy, no matter how great the plane is. You could be flying first class. Who cares? The only reason you're on the plane is to get somewhere worthwhile. So, why should people say yes to working with you? Why should people say yes to buying the offer that you are presenting? Why should people say yes to giving you your way? Well, ultimately, we need to take a step into their shoes and be able to communicate to them the benefit of being where they want to be. And so, here's your opportunity to put in just a little bit of work that's going to pay for itself in dividends year over year as you collect fat commission checks, or, you know, as an offer owner, you're just putting stacks in your own bank account. So what you're going to do is you're either going to pull out a piece of paper and a pen, or just type on your little Apple Notes tab over to the side, 20 reasons. Okay. And here's your prompts: family, faith, fitness, fun, finance, friends, future. Make sure that you have at least 2 legitimate benefits to someone saying yes to being in a working relationship with you. Someone has reasons to saying yes to paying you money as it relates to each and every one of these. And then I invite you to just continue on, because if you stop at 20 reasons, well, you're ahead of 90% of the people that are just discussing their shiny shit. But you're not here to just get that 1% advantage, right? You're here to completely dominate your industry and ultimately give yourself an unfair advantage that no one can touch. So I invite you to just brain dump as many possible reasons as you can. When I was first being mentored by my good friend now, Eli Wild, who was Tony Robbins' top sales guy for over a decade. They have an Eli Award named after him. He actually made me sit down and write 100 reasons why someone should buy my offer before he allowed me to book another one-on-one with him. Okay? I'm letting you off easy. You can go on to the next video if you have 20 reasons, but again, I invite you to go above and beyond and truly solidify this in your brain. Because when you can understand and when you can communicate the intended outcome for your prospects better than they can even do themselves, they will trust you to be their advisor. They will trust your prescription. They will trust moving forward with you. So before you go on to the next video, make sure that you do this. Write down at an absolute minimum 20 reasons why somebody should say yes to your offer, making sure that at an absolute minimum, you do at least 2 for each of these F's. Video, we are going to go over the sales call framework. So this one is a top level overview of a properly executed sales call. So the sales call process is going to bring your prospect through the necessary psychological steps in order to allow them to persuade themselves into taking action on whatever product or service you sell. Okay, scripts suck, and there are certain talk tracks and analogies that you want to have in your back pocket, right? But ultimately, there is a flow, there is a framework that you must bring your prospects through in order to catalyze their decision-making process. This is it. Important note, do not skip steps, no matter how hot and ready to buy your prospect may seem. Unfortunately, I personally have missed out on a ton of sales by jumping the gun and missing steps in this process, ultimately sabotaging the opportunity to close that sale. And then I had to do a lot of cleanup on the back end. This whole process is designed to mitigate objections so that you have a lot less work to do. So again, do not skip steps. Now, as we get into this, it's going to seem super simple. In fact, you might be doing something similar to this already. But in the following videos in this module, you're going to uncover the hidden nuance between or inside of each of these steps that allow it to work so cohesively to trigger buying decisions. So let's take a top-down look. Your call is always going to go through these phases. Sometimes you don't even have the objection matrix, right? But let's go ahead and start at the start. So when we open the call, we are going to establish some quick rapport. Very simple. Do not get lost into the weeds or go off to Pluto. It will degrade your authority, and that is necessary for being able to direct and lead this conversation. Then you're going to move into pre-framing the interaction. Now, again, in the following videos, you're going to learn how to do each of these steps better. So just pay attention to the flow. Let this lock down in your mind, because when you can go from having to reassociate yourself on a page or on a note on your computer, for example, while you're selling, and you just know these steps and you can see the process in the back of your mind, this is where you reach that next level of competence. So we're going to pre-frame the interaction as collaborative so that we can inspire them to open up and share with us the necessary information to create leverage, both intrinsic and extrinsic. Then we're going to move into the intel gathering stage. Now, what most people completely miss or forget or just want to pretend is not the case is that the sale is really made here. This is where the sale is made, is in the intel gathering stage. So you'll ensure that you've checked off each of the 7 questions which are required to mitigate objections on the back end. And the whole purpose of this is getting down to the root, using things like mirrors, labels, taking advantage of mirror neurons in your prospect's brain. And again, we'll get more into that, so just keep high level, right? So remember one thing, the sale is made in the intel gathering process. Then we're going to move through the transition, which you could also refer to as the transfer of trust, a pivotal moment in every call. And this is actually where your entire demeanor will change. Okay. This is going from skeptical, curious. Can you tell me more? Help me understand, man. Maybe you can help me connect the dots, to got it. Well, based on everything you shared with me, there is no reason why we won't be able to accomplish this together. This is a pivotal transition in your calls. Then moving into the presentation, where we are illustrating the end outcome for the prospects and only using little bits of the deliverables to back up and establish a logical case as to why they buy. But remember, we've already talked about this, people buy emotionally and they will back up their decisions with logic after the fact. So do not over communicate your deliverables in this stage. More on that in the next modules. Then we will go through a tie-down process, essentially what you could consider reverse selling, basically allowing your prospect to sell themselves on the back end of the call, which is the last thing we want in their mind before we go into the pitch, where we are exchanging money. Now, if for some reason we were not able to mitigate the objections on the front end with the intel gathering stage executed properly, then you'll have some cleanup work to do, which is where the objection matrix comes in handy. So this is the top level overview of a sales call. Consider it your sales call framework. This is Bible. Make sure that you do not skip steps and you always go through this full process. Now, pre-framing is something that's going to happen after you've established some quick rapport on your sales call before going into the intel gathering stage. This is a vital bridge in the sales process. And if you miss out on this, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So let's take a look at why people don't do this in the first place. Now, there's 4 reasons that I've identified with my different sales reps and thousands of clients over the past couple of years. Number 1 reason why people don't effectively pre-frame their sales calls. Well, they just don't know how to do it. And so today we're going to run through 3 different ways that you can effectively pre-frame your sales calls, leading to a lot more sales. Now, reason number 2 why people don't do it. They don't know why. They don't know why it's important to do it in the first place. And I can completely appreciate not doing something because you don't understand the importance. But by the end of this video, it should be crystal clear. So don't make this mistake in the future if this is why you haven't been pre-framing your calls effectively up to this point. Now, reason number 3, sometimes you just get a bit lazy. And I don't mean to offend, but I've been there myself. Maybe you have a prospect, for example, that comes in via referral, or they just seem so red hot and ready to buy that you just want to jump right ahead in the process. Understand that skipping steps, even with prospects that seem ready to go, this will be done, again, to the detriment of your sales numbers. Nothing is more frustrating than having a red-hot, ready-to-buy prospect slip through the cracks because you missed vital steps in the process. That, or they're just in a rush. Don't be in a rush. Slow down. Handle this conversation with tact. Now, reason number 4 why people will not effectively pre-frame their sales calls. They've got this fear or worry, for example, that the prospect won't fall into the frame, or in other words, the prospect will reject the frame that you're trying to set on the call. And this could lead to confrontation. So people will avoid pre-framing the calls out of fear that they're going to have their prospects reject the frame and that could cost them the sale. Now, what's really important to understand is why this is so important. You see, you need to be pre-framing your sales calls for a few reasons. So let's dive into those. Now, if I were to just go into a call, right, and just launch right on into questions about, well, how much money do you want to make? How much are you currently bringing in? Why are you not okay with staying where you're at? What's kept you from being able to solve this on your own? If I just launch right into questions like this, it feels investigative to your prospects. So imagine you're in an interrogation room, right? And someone is just drilling you with questions. Naturally, do you want to open up and share what's really going on? Of course not. You're going to be guarded, and you're going to keep some of that information close to the chest because it feels like you're under investigation. However, an effective pre-frame to your sales call actually sets your prospects up really effectively to be transparent, to be open with you, because an effective pre-frame allows your calls to become collaborative. Collaborative instead of investigative. Now just imagine, do you think you're going to get more honest, authentic, nitty-gritty answers from your prospects if they feel like they're under investigation, or if they feel like they're in collaboration with you to get what they ultimately want? It seems pretty simple when I put it that way, right? Now, number two reasons why it is vital for you to be effectively pre-framing your sales calls before jumping right on into the intel gathering stage is that this establishes your leadership. And it is vital that you have a leadership frame on your sales calls, especially when you're selling coaching, because ultimately this prospect is going to hire you to lead them to the outcome that they want. So if you can't establish yourself as a leader on the front end of this conversation, then you're starting way behind in the race, essentially, needing to then make up a whole bunch of ground through the process, which can be really challenging if you set yourself up in that way from the start. So remember, especially when you're selling coaching, you are going to be a leader in their life. So start off that relationship on the right foot. And remember this, people want to be led by people that they feel care about them. Like, you feel that I care about you, and this is why you would be willing to trust my leadership to the point of even watching these videos and implementing what I have to say. It's not just because I have millions of dollars under my belt as a sales rep myself and tens of millions with companies that I've worked with, but it's because you know that I care, and it's how I pre-frame interactions. So now we're going to look at 3 specific ways that you can effectively pre-frame your sales calls to set you up for success. But before we do, we have to thank our video's sponsor today, the like button. So if you haven't already, go right down below me, smack that thumbs up, just turn it blue. It helps us out a ton in the YouTube algorithm. And frankly, it's the only tuition that I ask of you in exchange for watching these free sales trainings that I guarantee, as long as you implement, they will make you a ton of money. So again, just thank our video sponsor, the like button, by smacking it until it turns blue. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now let's look at 3 different ways that you can effectively pre-frame your sales call. So what I want you to do is listen first, and then you will repeat with me. You'll read it with me, because I don't want this to just be more information that you take in, but I want you to actually practice applying it so that you can get this down and use it effectively. So pre-frame number 1, you could start off by saying something along the lines of, all right, so let me give you an idea of how these calls work. I'm going to ask you some questions to better understand your situation and ultimately where you're looking to take this business. And if after getting a clear picture, I feel like we could help you make that happen, then we'll have a conversation about what it would look like to work together to make this possible. Cool if we just dive right on in? So again, the purpose of this is collaboration. I'm letting them know how these calls work so that they can get the most out of it. This is key. It's like, hey, I just need you to be honest with me and tell me everything that you think I need to know so I can give you proper guidance. So that is one way that you can pre-frame a call. Here's another one, a little bit more simple. Okay, John, well, I'm prepared to talk with you today about ways that you could grow your online business, which I understand is why you reached out in the first place. But first, I hope you don't mind if I ask you just a few questions to better understand your situation. So I'm asking permission to ask him questions. When they say it, they own it. So when you get permission to ask them questions, again, this is framing in a collaborative way. And if you do that, you're going to be set up for success. Número 3, this one. All right, well, let's do this. Before I'm able to dive in and into like how we might be able to help you, it'd probably be appropriate if I asked you just a few quick questions to better understand your situation, so we could see if we could even help you in the first place. For example, question 1. So any of these 3 or any variation of these 3 when done right are going to set you up for success in your sales calls. So I'm going to pop this up on the screen here, and you're just going to read it alongside with me and practice. I guarantee a little bit of practice, this is going to get super simple. You'll get to the point where it just rolls right off your tongue and makes a big difference in your sales calls. So we'll start from the top with the first example again, right up on the screen here. So let me give you an idea of how these calls work. I'm going to ask you some questions to better understand your situation and where you're looking to take this business. And if, after getting a clear picture, I feel like we could help you make it happen, then we'll have a conversation about what that would look like if we chose to work together. Cool if we just dive right on in? Number 2. Again, repeat with me. Read it with me. It's going to make a big difference. Don't sleep on this. It's totally cool if you're just sitting there all by yourself talking out to the expanse. That's exactly what I look like when I go through sales trainings myself to improve. I'm always repeating along with them because I don't just want to get it cerebrally. I want to anchor it into my body. So, number 2. Okay, John. Well, I'm prepared to talk with you today about ways that you could grow your online business, which I understand is why you reached out. But first, I hope you don't mind if I ask you just a few quick questions to better understand your situation. 3rd, well, let's do this. Before I'm able to dive in about how we might be able to help, it might be appropriate if I asked you just a few quick questions to better understand your situation and see if we could even help you in the first place. All right. Now, don't just read all three of these in order, of course. Pick one, practice it, adjust the wording a little bit so that it fits your own vernacular, and get comfortable with this. I guarantee that as you do, you're going to have a much easier time getting your prospects to open up and be forthright with the information that you must uncover in order to make the sale. So let's dive into the 7 questions that will constitute the intel gathering stage of your sales interaction. Now remember, if I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. Now these 7 questions capitalize on this simple sales principle to mitigate the majority of common objections before ever even getting into your pitch. Now, this is important to note. They do not need to be checked off in order. However, they must all be checked off in order to position you effectively to close the sale. So, the beauty is that when you commit these questions to memory, you will no longer have to rely on clunky scripts that disconnect you emotionally from your prospects. Instead, you'll be able to have what feels like a casual conversation in which you're checking off the necessary boxes while not creating sales resistance. This is a beautiful thing when applied effectively. So I'm going to run you through surface level. What are these 7 questions? Okay, you've got 3 what questions, you've got 3 why questions, and you've got 2 of what I'd call the sometimes why, because they could be asked as either a what or a why, right? Now, the what questions are: what hurts? What do you really want? And what is the cost if nothing changes? The why questions are: why me? Why now? And why is this so important to you? And the last, which you just basically pick one of the 2, depending on how you want to phrase it, is, well, what's kept you from being able to solve this problem on your own? Or why have you not been able to fix this on your own up to this point? Now, to be clear, you're not going to ask these questions exactly like this. I'm not hopping on the phone. Okay, what hurts? Okay, this is a high-level overview of what we are looking to get out, because we need to understand what pain are the prospects in. What is it that they really want? What's the cost if nothing changes? But your words are less important. It's more that you're just looking for the answers to these things, okay? And if you pay close attention on calls and you provide the space for people to vent and just talk about their situation, many of these will be checked off without you actually having to ask the questions specifically. And then your job is really just to clarify and verify. Hey, you mentioned that this is going on. I guess, do you mind me asking, like, what is it that you really want? Or, hey, you mentioned that you have been looking for a solution for a while, but I guess I'm just curious, why now? Why not wait, right? That's clarifying and verifying. But the whole point is, think about these the same way as the messenger process checkboxes, as boxes that must be checked off in order to position you effectively to make a pitch that someone is going to latch onto and feel like, yes, 100%, I need that. So let's look at this a little bit deeper. The what questions. What hurts? Our whole intention here is to draw out the pain that your prospect, your counterpart, is in. What do you really want is a promised land question. What's the goal? What do you really want to get out of this? And now these 2 things here, what hurts and what do you really want, are required for you to be able to open up a gap. And remember, the gap is where the money's made. If there is not a clear chasm between where someone is at now and where they want to be, there's no reason for them to pay a toll and cross a bridge. So you must have those 2 things nailed down clearly and specifically. And spoiler alert, they need to be emotionally rooted. You will not be able to influence someone into parting with their hard-earned money for a solution if there's not an emotional payoff. Yes, the logical case is important, okay? If you miss building a logical case when presenting your offer, you will have people buy and then charge back or drop off or refund because they can't, in their mind, reason a logical case for the decision that they made. but you will not logic someone into buying your offer. At the end of the day, we make our decisions emotionally, and then we back them up after the fact with logic. Okay, now what's the cost if nothing changes? This one is really important because it's effectively drawing out the cost of inaction. This is going to allow you to then overcome financial objections on the front end, because no one buys a $10,000 solution to a $5,000 problem. You have to be able to extrapolate their problem into costing more than your solution is actually going to cost them. Okay? If you can offer a $10,000 solution to someone who feels their problem is going to cost them $100,000 a year if it goes unfixed, that's an easy investment for someone to make. Imagine the weight off their shoulders that they will feel when they envision themselves just trading $10,000 for $100,000 a year. That's pretty sweet. I'll take that deal any day. So we need to understand, well, what's the cost if nothing changes, right? And we can ask this in different ways. Like, hey, I guess, I almost hate to ask this of you, but have you really considered what the cost is, if nothing changes? And let's just say you continue down this same pathway, losing XYZ amount per month. What does that work out to over the next year? I'm terrible at math. Can you help me out? What does that work out to? Oh my gosh, that's a lot. And how much longer is that going to be okay? Oh, not any longer. Okay. Well, would it be appropriate if I suggested that we patch that leak and essentially put that money back in your pocket? We're getting a little bit off tangent. This is some stuff for later training. I want to just make sure that these questions are crystal clear and they're drilled into your head as far as the intention behind them so that you don't miss them. Because again, they don't need to be checked off in order, but they must be checked off in order to position you effectively for a presentation that's going to land. So now the why questions, right? If I say it, you doubt it. If you say it, you own it. I'm not going to tell you, right? Because selling is not telling. I'm not going to tell you why you need to take action now. I'm going to ask you, well, I guess why, what's going on that has you looking to solve this now? I guess why not just wait? Why is it important for you to solve this now? So that we can mitigate the timing objection. The objection of, well, that sounds great. I'd love to do it. Maybe like 3 or 4 months from now, right? Because when you have a why now question that they have come to their own conclusion and told you why it needs to happen now, tied in with the cost of inaction, whew, that's leverage. That's real leverage, and it's internal leverage rather than external leverage that's not nearly as effective. Okay. And let me just reiterate this. I know we've talked about the power of why before, but anytime you ask a question starting with why, you will, no matter what, cause your prospect or your counterpart to argue for that case. So, for example, never ask someone, well, why don't you want to do this now? Because they will dig their heels in and come up with a case as far as why they can't do it now. It would be like, well, I guess if you don't mind me asking, what's in the way? What's keeping you from being able to move forward with this today? Totally different than why, because why will always cause them to dig their heels in. So you ask these questions specifically so that they can pre-handle their objections. Well, why now? Why not just wait? Same thing with why me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how amazing I am. Oh yeah, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Trust me, none of my competition can even compare. I do this, that, the other, and the third. When I hear people do that on calls, between you and me, all I think of is the guy driving a way too jacked up like monster truck, and you think, wow, you must have huge junk, bro. Oh shit, I cracked myself up. So don't tell people how great you are. Ask them why. Why me? I guess if you don't mind me asking, why do you think I'd be the right person to help you solve this? So that they can tell you why they think you'd be the right person to solve this. Super important note here. It's not just about you knowing the answers to these things, so don't assume. It's about them hearing themselves say the answers to these questions. Again, it's not about you knowing the information. It's about them hearing themselves say the answers. I'm going to drill this into your head. It needs to be Bible. If I say it, you doubt it. If you say it, you own it. If you say it, it's a fact. If it comes out of your mouth, it is a fact. You own it. That is the truth. If I say it, it's up for interpretation. But if you say it, you own it. That's why all these questions are orchestrated in this way. Last thing, why is this so important to you? Because we want to anchor in intrinsic urgency. So for example, it's like, well, okay, I can appreciate that you would want this, but I guess if you don't mind me asking, why is that so important to you? Oh, for those reasons. Got it. I guess that makes sense, but why now? Why not just wait? And in that simple question pattern, we just nailed down 3 of our vital 7 questions, right? Lastly, instilling doubt. I know you've been there before, right? I was like, well, that sounds pretty good, but let me try it out on my own and see if, I'll get in touch if I'm not able to figure it out. So mitigate this. Make sure you instill doubt with a proper question. Like, well, you're a really smart guy. Like, I guess, do you mind me asking, what do you think's kept you from being able to solve this problem on your own up to this point? Because they need to doubt their own abilities before it makes sense for them to pay someone else to show them or give them or do something for them. If they feel like they could just figure it out themselves, well, they're going to try. So make sure that you nail this down as well. So these are your 7 questions that will eliminate objections before the pitch. Done right, you will have a much easier time closing up sales on the back end. And even if there are concerns, you'll just move into the looping process and nail them down. So I'll see you in the next one. The 2 truths. Now, before I learned this simple question pattern, I used to find myself so frustrated when I would have people on the phone that seemed to just be there to kick tires because everything seemed to be going great for them. There was no pain points that they would be willing to share. And believe you me, I lost a lot of sales because I didn't understand how to do this. So the 2 truths is for when they will not voice a pain point. Now, we've all been there, right? With a prospect that for whom everything is going great. So I know you'll understand the frustration of trying to find an angle with a pain point so you can establish a gap and leverage to make a sale. Because without a gap, there's no sale to be made. Or maybe you're just letting potential sales fall through the cracks like I did because I was mistakenly making offers to people like this without even trying to open up a pain point because I didn't have an effective strategy for doing so. Either way, it would be wise of you to study this training a few times to really anchor this in. Because this is the exact question pattern that I actually used just a couple months ago to close my Uber driver on an $8,000 coaching offer right after she had just told me that she loved her job driving. Okay, and this was over the course of a 30-minute drive. We went from, hey, I love my job, nothing else I would rather be doing right now, to paying $8,000 for a coaching offer to help her do something completely different. Okay? Because you see, there's always 2 truths. Because no matter how happy somebody may be with their situation, their product that they're using, their relationship, or their service, there's always a part of us humans that just believes it could always be a little bit better. And so this question pattern will draw out that small nugget that you will then dig into and expand until it becomes a problem that they must solve. Now, please be careful with this, because for as many times as I have seen this and personally used it for good, I have also seen this used to pick up married women from the bar. Okay? One of my friends, when I was visiting him out in San Diego, I literally watched him do this and leave with a married woman. So, therefore, I'm trusting you to be a good person and to use this tool with integrity. I do not say this lightly. You are learning in this course powerful tools for influence. And I just ask that you be a good person and you use these tools for good. Okay? Now, before we dive into what this actually looks like, this is really important to note the tonality with your delivery of this question pattern is key. You want to be leaned out, unattached, and just curious in your energy, your tone, and your demeanor. Because if you come off too strong, this is not going to work. So if you need something to focus on summoning genuine curiosity for this person and what they have to say. Now, first things first, we can call this the dump, okay? They are not going to open up about their pain point until after they have fully dumped out their case for why what they have now is great, okay? So we're not going to be like, well, obviously you're on this call for a reason, right? So what do you want to be different? It doesn't work. Instead, again, we need them to fully dump out their case for why what they have now is great before we'll actually be able to move in and open up this small little pain point that we will then make a lot bigger, okay? So we'll say something like this. Well, it sounds like you've got a pretty good thing going on there. Tell me, what do you like about it? Okay, and notice my tone. Wow, it sounds like you've got a really good thing going on there. Tell me, what do you like about it? And they're going to tell you what they like and what's going well. Then you're going to ask them anything else. Cool. That sounds pretty good. What else do you like about it? And they'll tell you more. Once they've exhausted their list, then we'll affirm this. Nice. Well, I could totally see why you like this so much. And they're going to agree and acknowledge that, putting a bookend on the dump. Once they have fully dumped out what they like about their current situation, relationship, product, service, yada, 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 now we have the opportunity to dig. So notice this. This is important. These ellipses are here for a reason because we want to have pauses. Okay, so we'll be like, well, tell me though, Mason, I guess, what would you change about it if you could? Okay, so we're moving from this lighthearted curiosity of, wow, it sounds like you've got a really good thing going on there. Hey, tell me, what do you like about it? Okay, now we're shifting a little bit, being like, okay, well, tell me, Joe, I guess, what would you change about it, though, if you could? Okay, we're slowing down, we're pausing a little bit. This is an intentional stutter. Tell me, though, Joe, I guess, what would you change about it if you could? And they'll give you one small little thing, okay? And then we're going to ask if there's anything else, too. Gotcha. Well, just curious, is there anything else you'd change, if you could? And from here, we're now going to move into the tie down. Well, if you don't mind me asking, I guess why would that be important to you? At which point they will then begin reasoning why this would be of value or importance to them. And again, let me reassociate you with this. They dump out what they love first, so it's not in the back of their head. This is vital. Then we will have a small dig. Well, tell me though, Joe, I guess, what would you change about it if you could? Well, if you don't mind me asking, I guess why would that be important to you? Okay, well, I can appreciate that, but I guess, why would that be important to you now, though? At which point we have brought out this small pain point. We have now tied them down with a why question. Well, why would that be important to you? Because to a why question, your counterpart will always dig in their heels and formulate a case. Okay? And then we're going to tie them down to an urgency factor with now. Well, I guess why would that be important to you now, though? And once they have heard themselves say why it would be important for them to have this change to their current situation, and why it would be important for them to have this change to their situation now, this becomes your leverage. And it is shocking how effective this is. So go back, rewatch this training a few times. In fact, I'm just going to take you through this one more time so you can hear what it sounds like. Okay? Well, it sounds like you've got a pretty good thing going on there. I mean, tell me, what do you like about it? Cool. Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. Is there anything else you like about it? Got you. Nice. Well, I mean, I can see why you like that so much. Tell me, though, Joe, I guess, what would you change about it, though, if you could? Gotcha. Well, just curious. I mean, is there anything else you would change if you could? Huh. Okay. Well, Joe, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I guess, why would that be important to you? Well, I can certainly appreciate that. But I guess, why would that be important to you now, though? And you will have effectively taken someone from, no, my situation's great, I don't need any help, I'm just here to hear you out, to, yeah, no, I need this to change now because this is actually really important to me. At which point, now you have leverage. Now you can open up a gap, and now you can make a sale. So, again, this is a powerful tool. Please use it with integrity. I am trusting you to be a good person, and I will see you in the next one. The transition and the transfer of trust. The pivotal shift to the back end of a call. Now, at this point in your sales conversation, you have already completed your effective diagnosis of your prospect's situation and ideal outcome. So now is when you're going to put a bookend on the front half of the call, establish a transfer of trust, and transition into your presentation. Now, this moment must be nailed for your prescription to be accepted. So the transfer of trust happens right when you are done with your intel gathering stage of the call. And what you're going to say is, now, Jim, based on everything you shared with me today, it sounds like what we're doing could really help you out. And I've got some thoughts as far as what that would look like, but before we move on, do you feel like I have all the information that I need in order to give you proper guidance, or have we possibly missed anything that you think I need to know? Now, the whole point of this is to get them to hear themselves say, no, I think we've covered it. And this is so key to wrapping up your diagnosis. Because when done right, you will see and or hear them, depending on how you run your calls, transfer their trust to you to make a prescription. Okay? The whole point is for them to feel like they have put a bookend. They've shared with you everything that you need to know in order to give them guidance. Think about if you were to go into a doctor's office and you just walked in and they handed you pills, you wouldn't trust it. But after they knock on your knee, they put a scope in your ear, they swab your mouth and all that stuff, and they ask, are there any other symptoms or does that cover it? You're like, no, doc, that's it. And then once you've said that, you're going to be more willing to trust the prescription. Okay, so that's the whole point of this. Next, you will make your transition. So you'll say, okay, cool. Well, in that case, I'd be happy to walk you through step by step what it would look like for us to solve this problem together so that you can achieve that desired result. But just let me know, where would you like to go from here? Now you're going to input, solve the problem, and achieve desired result, right? So, okay, well, cool. I mean, in that case, I'd be happy to walk you step by step through what it would look like to lose those last 30 pounds together so that you can ultimately live in this brand new body of your dreams for good, establishing a permanent transition. But just let me know, where would you like to go from here? And the reason that we're asking this is because done right, they will then ask you to pitch them. Them saying, yeah, please tell me, what does it look like? Because when they say it, they own it, right? If I say it, you doubt it. If you say it, you own it. Don't just be like, okay, well, I'm going to walk you through the offer now. No, because now you're pitching them. You don't want them to feel pitched. You want them to feel as if they are like, yes, please tell me how you can help me. Because again, when they say it, they own it. So this will dramatically increase the chance of them accepting your prescription. Now, once you've done that effectively, you can move confidently into your presentation. And I'll see you in that video. presentation, how to craft a prescription that your prospects will actually accept. Now, in a world of canned cookie cutter, always the same presentations, this for years has been one of my big unfair advantages that has allowed me to craft presentations that feel custom made for every prospect, even though I'm selling the exact same program to multiple people. Okay, so the presentation. At this point of the sales conversation, you've just completed an effective transition and transfer of trust. So now it's time to make your presentation. So think about this as if you are prescribing one simple solution as a result of careful diagnosis. And remember that the majority of think about it, like, I just need to think about it, objections are created by you overcomplicating your presentation. Think about this. If you give them too much to think about, then of course they're going to have to think about it. So don't do that. Instead, use this simple framework to keep your presentation simple and digestible so that your prospects feel that your offer is made just for them, leaving them with nothing to think about. So your presentation will look like this. Hey, because you said problem, what we'll do for you is solution, and for you, that means benefit. Tie down. Now, we're going to get into some of this other stuff in a sec, so just bear with me. The reason that pain, problem, and benefit are in all caps is because this is where you will spend the majority of your time. Think back to some of the earlier modules where I burst your bubble and let you know that no one gives a fuck about your shiny shit. Okay? We're not spending much time or energy on the actual solution itself because they don't care about that. They care about what it means for them. And what it means for them is being able to move away from the pain that they're in and the problem that's causing it and ultimately experience the benefits of your offer. So that's why it's all caps, pain and problem, little case, solution, and big caps, benefit. And then we tie them down to each piece of the presentation. So I understand that the chances are your offer, your product, your solution has more than just 3 main deliverables. But you are only going to pick 3 to talk about at this point based on their main challenges. And this is going to accomplish 2 things. 1, it's going to keep your presentation super simple so that you do not have to think about it, objections that you then have to work hard to dismantle. And number 2, think about it like this. You're leaving ammo in the clip to be used to answer concerns as they come up. Keyword, before the pitch, which is your discussion of financial commitment. We need to be able to address any logistical questions that they could possibly have before we move into the financial commitment. But we don't want to overcomplicate our offer, right? So we want to give it to them as simply as we possibly can. And many people will buy just on this and then be super excited to find out on the inside that your program has all sorts of other things and it's a bonus to them. Okay? So we want to keep it super simple because many people will buy straight from this. However, the people who have more questions, great. Then we're only addressing what's actually relevant to them, and we're not throwing in pieces to our presentation that they don't see value in. Because if we're throwing things in that they don't see value in, you create a situation where they want to nitpick your offer and take away certain deliverables that they just don't deem to be valuable, assuming that that will reduce the price. So don't even let that slip into their thought process. Okay, so here's some tie-down examples. Make sense? Do you agree? Can you see how this would help you? You still with me? That's what these blue parts are, tying down each piece of the presentation individually. Now you must tie down each of your solution points to get buy-in to each component individually, each component of the offer individually, and mitigate any objections here if you need to clarify them before introducing the complication of financial commitment. So for example, if I said, hey, because you said pain, well, we'll do a solution for you that means benefit. Does that make sense? They go, actually, I have a question about that. Hey, totally cool. What can I answer for you? answer that and then be like, got it. Now, does that sound like it would be helpful for you? It does. Okay, cool. Now, I also know that you mentioned this. So in order to fix that, we'll implement solution. And for you, that means benefit. Can you see how that would help you? Oh yeah, totally. Cool. Lastly, I can appreciate how frustrating this has been for you. So what we'll need to do is make sure we implement simple solutions so that you can have all these great results. You still follow me? Yeah, I actually have a question about that too. Hey, totally cool. Fire away. Yeah, oh, great question. So this is what it actually looks like. Now, does that make sense? It does. Okay, and can you see how that would help you? Yes. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and run through a quick example. Just wrote this out real quick for a fitness offer. So let's just say, we're at this point in the conversation. So I'll say, hey, because you said you've been on a dieting hamster wheel for years now, and even when you find something that seems to work in the short term, it sounds like the results are just never sustainable. And it's never long before you find yourself back at the same weight or even heavier. So, what we'll do is craft a fully custom, flexible nutrition protocol for you, which will ultimately allow you to sustainably lose weight week over week without ever getting stuck at a plateau again, and without missing out on family dinner nights, because no diet that forces you to cut out your favorite foods is ever going to work long term. And what we're creating here together is a permanent transformation. Does that sound good to you? Got it. Now, I also know that you mentioned, piecing together random fitness influencer workouts from Instagram or trying to figure out what to do in the gym on your own has been super frustrating, and it tends to lead to you just falling off the wagon purely based on overcomplication and wasted time. So instead, when you go to the gym with this process, all you'll need to do is open the app on the phone, where I'll be programming your custom tailored workouts, and you just simply follow the steps I laid out for you. And that will not only shorten your time in the gym by a ton. Like, for example, my average clients are actually able to lose over 20 pounds over the course of 3 months while working out for only 45 minutes a day, 3 times a week. So not only that, but it's going to ensure that what you're doing is actually right for your body and your goals, so that we can prevent injuries and ensure that you get great results week after week. Now, can you see how much easier it will be when you just have a simple, proven process laid out, and your only job really is just to show up a couple times a week and follow the steps? Yeah, exactly. Now, lastly, I can completely appreciate how frustrating that it's been for you to be on this journey alone. And frankly, I don't blame you for falling off track. It's really hard to stay accountable to putting in the work when there's nobody making changes like this around you. So, as part of this process, you'll have a private community of driven women just like you who are going through their own transformations alongside of you. And that way you can learn not only from what I'm going to teach you, but also from what everyone else in the program is applying in their own way. And frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if just being a part of a supportive community like this ends up being one of the most helpful parts of this process. Because not only will we all be there to give you a little kick in the butt when you aren't feeling motivated, but we'll be there to celebrate your victories every step of the way too. Sue, how good would it feel to finally have support as you make this the last time you ever need a process like this? So that's just an example, right, of red is pain, problem, yellow is solution, green is benefit. Notice I color-coded it this way so you can see you spend time bringing up the pain. You make it super simple when it comes to presenting your solution itself, and then you illustrate big picture, draw the vision, the benefits that they can expect as a result of going through this process. And then you tie it down so that they buy in every step of the way. So, after presenting your offer with the framework above, you're going to ask the following question to draw out any lingering questions, concerns, or objections before moving to the financial commitment. This is what I'll call the recap. Okay? So after you have done that, you'll ask, now, Sue, based on everything that we just went through, is there anything missing from what you were looking for specifically? Or do you feel that this is the perfect fit for you? You can pretty much ask this the exact same way every time. The only thing that I want to call attention to here is bold is where you want to put the tonality of emphasis on. Now, based on everything I just went through, is there anything missing from what you were looking for specifically? Or do you feel that this is the perfect fit for you? And I just note this, like when you're talking to women, women predominantly feel, men predominantly think. So use their language. Now at this point, when you ask this question, if they ask about price, you will redirect their attention with, hey, great question. And we'll get to that in a moment if it's appropriate. But more important to me is understanding whether or not you even think this would be the right fit for you. So are there any lingering questions about the process specifically? And at this point, one of two things will happen. They will either ask a logistical question about the process itself, to which you'll just answer their question using the same pain, solution, benefit framework detailed above. Okay. Then you'll ask any other questions, and they'll either ask more questions and you'll answer them in the same way, or they will respond with the following. Nope, sounds good to me. Right. So this sometimes will just happen after you ask this. So are there any, or after you ask this, or do you feel like that's the perfect fit for you? They say, no, that sounds great to me. Every time you're going to ask them this question once they acknowledge that this sounds good to them. Let me just reformat this for the purposes of the training. So once they give you acknowledgement that this sounds good to me, you will tie down the entire process as a whole before moving on. You need to do this every single time. Do not forget it. Burn it into your brain. Every time someone says yes, or they say, yeah, I think so, to your offer, always ask. Cool. Well, if you don't mind me asking, why do you feel this would be the perfect fit for you? Remember, why will always cause your counterpart to dig their heels in and argue in favor of whatever you're asking why about. Okay? And so the reason for this is because the last thing on your prospect's mind before moving into a conversation about financial commitment has to be them hearing themselves say that this is the perfect fit for them. Again, the last thing on your prospect's mind before moving into a conversation about financial commitment has to be them hearing themselves say that this is the perfect fit for them. They, at this point, when you ask this question, will justify to you why it is the perfect fit for them. They will sell themselves. Remember, the most effective way to influence someone is to allow them to influence themselves. Because if I say it, you doubt it. But if you say it, you own it. It's a fact. So again, cool. Well, if you don't mind me asking, Sue, why do you feel this would be the perfect fit for you? Now, done right, this presentation will mitigate the majority of objections before we ever complicate their decision-making process with the financial conversation. This is also going to position you perfectly to handle any concerns or objections if they arise on the back end, because you've already tied down the process itself. Again, you have already tied down the process itself. So any objections or concerns that come up can be regarded as purely logistics and not a question of your product's value. I really hope that that is sinking in, because when you get this nailed and they tell you 100%, I want this, it's perfect for me, and then they have a financial objection, it's no longer a matter of you wondering or barking up the wrong tree of like, oh shit, did I actually make my product, feel valuable to them? No. It's the chances are it's actually a logistical financial challenge. And that's where we get into things like payment terms and payment plans, blah, 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 blah. We'll get to that in one of the trainings that's to follow. But when I did this simple shift with one of my sales teams that was already doing great, they all of a sudden had so much more confidence and certainty going through the looping process to handle objections, because their prospects had just told them this is perfect for me. So they no longer had that question in the back of their head. Yes, This is phenomenal, highly effective for getting somebody to buy into the process and anchor down there. But aside from that, it also is going to bolster your confidence when it comes time to handle concerns, because they just said they want this. And so now you can take a powerful stand for helping them to get what they just told you they want. Whew. All right. That is the presentation. How to craft a prescription your prospects will accept. I will see you in the next one. Pitch perfect. Nailing the commitment stage of a sales call. Now, no part of a sales call is more widely debated than the price drop, or what we refer to as the commitment stage. And that's for good reason, because if you nail this piece, you are going to be shocked at how many people just throw their credit cards at you to pay in full. But if you mess this piece up, you'd better be ready to do a lot of cleanup work in the objection handling stage. So it would behoove you to practice this piece until you know it like the back of your hand, because if you do, your bank account will thank you big time. Now, before we dive into the right way to do things, we got to look at the old school method. Okay, this is what I was actually brought into the sales space a little over half a decade ago and taught, right, as like the best way to do it. All right, so this was just Bible for me, and basically what I did until I figured out a better way to do it for myself. So maybe this is something that you've come into contact with before, either because you've been taught it or it's been used on you. And either way, you know how it feels. Okay, it goes like this. All right, name the investment to eliminate pain, accomplish goal, and ultimately achieve purpose is just price. And here you're supposed to shut up, right? You shut up and you wait until that prospect says something. This is your power move. You drop it like something big on that table, right? You drop it and you just shut up. Now, let me be clear. Well, there's certainly a lot worse ways to drop the price. This method is about as tired as those rainbow sandals you've had for 5 years, okay? It might be time to kick them out. So for one, unless you are rock solid in your delivery, and you can actually hold firm in the silence that will inevitably follow, because that's the point here, until this prospect uses what we might call directional language. So this is not hmms, ahs, it's like, I don't think I can afford that. Or it's, sounds good, sign me up, which actually rarely happens if this is how you're making your pitch. Your authority can drop through the floor and create hefty sales resistance that you'll then have to work hard to reframe. Secondly, this method is actually combative in nature. And as you should understand by now, the most effective sales processes are collaborative, not combative. So, unless you love handling objections and quote unquote strong-arming your prospects into a close, it's time to hang up this method for good and learn how to do this the influence mastery way. So, this is a method that I developed over the course of years of trial and error, figuring out what am I actually getting the best response from, okay? Because data matters. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to continue doing something that doesn't deliver great results if I can figure out a better way to do that. So if you remember from the 3-step perfect presentation, you must finish up your presentation like this. Okay, so this is a placeholder here so you understand structurally where this comes in. Right, so once we have finished up the whole presentation, it's like, all right, now, based on everything we just went through, tell me, is there anything missing from what you were looking for specifically? Or does it feel like the perfect fit for you? All right, obviously we know if you've gone through the prior trainings that one of two things will happen. There is either a question, which you are going to answer in the appropriate way. Go back to the training if you haven't seen it. Or they're going to say, I'm in. The only third option that's a sometimes why is they'll ask the price, to which you should know by this point is, hey, great question. We'll get to that in a moment if it's appropriate. But more important to me is understanding whether or not you feel the process itself would even work for you. So are there any other questions for me about the process specifically, or can you see this possibly working for you? right? Just because all roads need to lead back to, yes, sounds like exactly what I was looking for. At which point you flip the script and you ask, well, why is it a yes for you though? Because the last thing that we want on the prospect's mind before we move into the influence mastery method of making your perfect pitch is them telling you why they want in, why they want your product, your service, your coaching program. It needs to be them. Because a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. And if I say it, you doubt it, but if you say it, you own it. These need to be drilled into your head. Okay, so the prospect says, oh, it's a yes for me because of this reason and that reason. Sounds great. Here's how you're going to structure your pitch. You're going to go, cool. Well, next steps, they're super simple. Your commitment to the process is just price. Now from there, what we're going to do is future pace you so that you can outcome and make sure this is emotional. Okay. Now we can get you processed with X, Y, or Z. Which would you prefer? Okay. So let me run through this real quick one more time. Not saying framework stuff. So John, next steps, super simple. Your commitment to the process is just $6,000. Now from there, we're going to get you introduced to your head coach to actually devise your specific roadmap to make sure that we're able to get off of this income hamster wheel and straight to 10K a month as soon as possible. Now that onboarding call will happen within 48 hours. All right. So as far as getting you processed, we can either do debit card, credit card, PayPal, whichever works best for you. Which one would you prefer? Super simple, right? Next step, super simple. Your commitment to the process is just price. Now from there, we're going to future pace so that you can outcome. Now we can get you processed with X, Y, or Z. Which would you prefer? So let me break this down super quick. This is a little side note. All right. There's some controversy around language to be used. All right. So we've got like good, better, best. In this case, though, I'd say like bad, better, great. Okay. Cost. The cost of the program, the cost of this is blank. That sucks. Reason for that is because it implies that we are doing something to the prospect. Okay. Investment, it's better because it's neutral language. Basically just saying it is what it is. The investment is this. Well, what I have found, though, is that commitment. Okay, commitment rings the most true, and I've had the best results specifically using this language. Your commitment to the process is this, because this is actually reaffirming that the prospect is doing this to get what they want on their own free will. In polar, direct opposition, okay, diametrically opposed to saying cost is your commitment is this. Again, reaffirming that the prospect is doing this to get what they want. All right, that's why it is your commitment to the process is just price. Now, from here, you're going to have one of two things happen, okay? Either the prospect is going to agree and indicate their preferred method of payment, at which point you will say specifically like this, great. Go ahead and grab your card while I get your next step set up for you here. Okay, we're going to give them the command. Go ahead and grab your card while I get your next step set up for you here. Or prospect is going to voice a concern, which you can read as an objection, at which point clearly we're going to move right into the objection matrix, nip it in the butt, we'll be all good. Close up that sale. Now, there's a little bit of reassurance, right? Because liars figure, but figures don't lie. These two pay in fulls actually came immediately after I taught this guy restructuring his pitch to look exactly like I just taught you. Okay. And broke him out of his sales slump that he felt stuck in immediately. All right. He's going, dude, WTF. I'm like, was this a laydown for me? 8,800 pay in full. What the heck just happened, man? And then immediately after, I just have these backwards. I'm not the best with docs. Because just caused another. What the fuck? Confidence telling people to grab their card instead of just asking is huge. Yes. Subtle change, massive outcome difference. All right. This stuff just works. It works based on trial and error and having ultimately devised the most appropriate systematic process for being able to guarantee commitment from anyone that's closable. All right. I will see you in the next one.
So what's important here is like before you get caught up in how do I handle objections strategically, first focus on actually making the sale, because you can't handle objections if someone isn't sold already. If they're just trying to get off the phone, right, because they don't feel like it's the right product for them, then there's no use in trying to handle objections because they don't actually want what you have. So objections in this context are really just concerns. Like, hey, it's a great fit for them. It would be perfect, but logistically something's not quite right. Maybe they're unsure about their spouse. They're concerned that they would be sleeping on the couch, or they're concerned they don't have the money, or maybe they're concerned that the value is not quite there. Right? So if you can think about what comes up as concerns instead of these scary objections, it releases a lot of the emotional tension that comes up. And for everyone watching, especially if you're newer to sales, don't go in expecting it to be just a lay down 100%. Oh, sounds great. I'm in. Let me pay in full. That's awesome. And it will happen with great marketing, but expect a couple objections to come up so that when they do, you're not caught off guard and you don't get defensive. So last thing with, objections before we go into like the strategic is none of this is going to work if you aren't willing to go there with them. So if you're showing up for your calls looking just to be liked or to go through the motions, then throw this away and work on that first. Because in order to be a powerful coach, we need to show up to make a difference, not just to be liked. Like, I genuinely believe in the human potential, and I love people. And like Ben, I'm not afraid to offend. I couldn't care less if I offend someone. It's fine. I've been offended myself. I'm still alive. So are you. You've probably been offended before too. So the first step is like being willing to go there because you see personally a way better life for them if they take a step forward versus the life they're currently in. If you can see that and you want to fight for their potential instead of allowing them to sell you on their limitations, then going this direction, it's great. So most objections that come up are really just smoke screens for something else underneath. And if you hit the objection head on, like they say, oh, I don't think I can afford it, and you just jump right into that, like, well, what do you mean you can't afford it? Where else can you find the money? Then what we're doing is granting validity to that fake objection, and our prospect ends up digging their heels in. So instead, what we want to do is just deflect it and get down to the real root of what's going on. And this will accomplish one of two things. We'll either end up with a closed deal, or we'll find out the real issue that we can then address in our marketing, or we'll find out the real issue and then we can have an honest conversation with our prospect to resolve their concerns. So when you're practicing, just go through this. The words will change, but the sequence is the same. And this is something where Jordan Belfort is actually the first one who called it looping. Jeremy Miner does a very similar thing. So does Eli Wilhide. Breaking down some of the top sales people I've ever seen, it's just 4 simple steps. They just use different words. So essentially what we're going to do is validate. Like, hey, totally cool. I hear what you're saying, Maria. It's not a problem. Let me ask you a question, though. Finances aside, does this even seem like the right kind of thing for you? I mean, does the program even make sense for you? So what we're going to do is push aside that first objection, right? We're going to say, if we were able to resolve that, does the process itself actually even feel like the right fit for you? And then when they say yes, which is going to happen in 99% of the cases, if they say no, great, don't waste your time, just hop off the phone. Chances are, though, you won't hear a no here. They'll say, well, yeah, I do. And then ask, well, what do they like about it? Well, what makes you say that? Well, or what do you like about it? If you don't mind me asking, why do you feel it would, though? Right? So I hear what you're saying, Maria. Let me ask you a quick question, though. Finances aside, does this actually seem like it would work for you? Well, yeah, I think so. Why do you think it would, though? And at this point, they're going to tell you how to close them. meaning they're going to tell you all the things about the offer that they actually like. Does this make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So from there, then we're going to take the ammunition, so to speak, and we're going to just expand on it. So let's just say, for example, their favorite thing was, well, you know, it sounds like it's going to be really supportive. Like, I like that, you know, I can check in with you each week. Oh, cool. You know, I don't think I actually mentioned, now that I'm thinking of it, not only do we do weekly check-ins where we're going to be adjusting your plan to make sure that every step you take is forward, but in addition, anything that comes up throughout the week, whether it's, you know, your wife is ordering pizza in and you're just not sure how to fit it in, or, you know, you miss a workout and you don't know how to get back on track, you don't have to wait an entire week to chat with me. You'll have a hotline, so that anything that comes up throughout the week, you're able to get in touch with me and I can make sure you stay on track. That way, every day, we're taking one small step forward. So by the end, now we're going to go in and ask for the sale again after we've expanded what they want. So by the end of the 90 days that we'll be working together, not only will you have lost those 15 pounds that you've been struggling to get rid of on your own, but you're going to be equipped with the tools and resources to be able to keep it off for the rest of your life. And frankly, the only problem you're going to have is we didn't get started sooner. Sound fair enough? So we're going to go back in and ask for the sale again.
So now this looping process is done after you present your like offer, what your program is. Then you would go through this and you're asking, you know, like, what do you like about it? And you kind of refer back to that.
Yeah. So you've got your open, you've got your pre-frame, you've got your diagnosis, or you could call it like intel gathering. And you have your transition, presentation, pitch, objections. This is basically like the steps of a call, right? So you're going to open, hey, how's it going? You're going to pre-frame, purpose of the call today is this, that, and the other. You're going to diagnose. So this is where you go through, it's the meat of the call, all your questions, getting to know what hurts, what's the cost if nothing changes, what do you want, why me, why now, why is this important to you, and why have you not been able to solve this on your own? Then your transition is like, gotcha. Well, based on what you told me, it sounds like what we're doing here actually could work for you. In fact, for people in your situation, we've been able to accomplish XYZ result in this amount of time. So I'd be happy to share with you how we could implement that with you, but you tell me, where do you want to go from here? The presentation is, because you said pain, what we'll do for you is solution. For you, that means benefit. Does that make sense? Got it. And then here we want to basically, you can put in what I'd call a temp check. So it's like, okay, so, I mean, based on everything we covered, does this sound like the right thing for you? I mean, can you see yourself being successful in this process? Oh yeah, sounds amazing. Cool. Is there anything you feel is missing, or does this feel like exactly the right fit for you? No, it sounds great. Amazing. Cool. All right. Well, only next steps then would be to get you plugged in. So where do you want to go from here? Oh yeah, please get me plugged in. Great. So that's where now you actually, cool. So the investment for the next 12 weeks, right, is whatever your investment is. Would you prefer Visa, MasterCard, PayPal? What works best for you? And then objection handling if they're not just ready to sign up and pay. So if something comes up and they're like, oh man, it sounds great. It's more than I expected that I was going to be paying. Like, okay, totally hear you. And not a problem. I guess more importantly, finances aside, does this actually feel like the right fit for you? Can you see yourself being successful with a process like this? Oh yeah, totally. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what specifically do you like about it? Oh, all these things. Oh, really? Cool. Did you know that all those things are actually really all these things? In fact, for people like you, we've been able to just, absolutely crush it, eliminating the pain and uncovering the vision really fast. And believe me, if you're even half as successful as the rest of the people we've worked with, only problem you'll have is we can get started 6 months sooner. Sound fair? And now at this point, only at this point, if it's the exact same objection. So a lot of times what you're going to find if you haven't done this before is like a finance objection becomes a spouse objection. Or, a spouse objection becomes a timing thing. Like, oh, I got to talk to my wife. Okay, well, you go through this and it's like, I got to level with you. Really? We're moving and I have no idea if I'm going to be able to afford it. I'm thinking like next month I'll know, but I don't know because I'm unemployed. Like, you have no idea until you've gone through this and then they're honest with you. So if it comes up that it's a different objection, go through the process again. Just different words. Oh, makes sense. Well, is that really the only thing that would hold you back? Other than that, it feels like the right fit for you. Yeah, it does. Huh. And why do you think it is though? Well, it's time. I feel like I've been doing this for so long. Oh, you've been putting it off for a long time. Well, the thing is, it doesn't need to take a lot of time. In fact, that's going to be my job. You just let me tell you exactly what to do. And all you need to do is show up 30 minutes a day. That's it. That's it. And believe me, dude, if you're even half as successful as the rest of the people we've worked with, only problem you're going to have is we didn't get started sooner. So if it's the same objection, then you'll actually go in and handle it. So it's like, no, 100%. I really want to do it. I can't afford it. There's just no way. It's like, got it. Okay. Well, are you open to having an honest conversation about your finances so that we can find a win-win and make sure that you get what you want? If yes, then go in and actually structure a payment plan, right? Or help them get creative with PayPal credit. But so many people will literally skip over this. They'll skip over making sure that the program is the right fit for them before they get into pricing. And so there's no like pre-commitment. They don't feel like they're the word is technically called tie down. I don't like the connotation, but we do want to have a tie down before we go into presenting price. Reason for that is because people get really in their heads about money. It complicates things for people. It's one of the number one causes of divorce. So of course we realize that. So we want to make sure that they're 100% bought into the process before giving them the pitch. Like, great. So for 12 weeks, it's 1,200. Right? Because all of a sudden that's more complication. But if they're 100% bought in before we go into the pitch, then we know that whatever objections come up can be dealt with. And so that's where most people lose sales is temp check. They just didn't ask if it feels like the right fit for them before they go into the pricing. Or objection handling. They just take whatever they say and they say, okay, guess I lost the sale, and they hang up. Right? Like, oh, it sounds cool. Can I get back to you next week and I'll let you know? If you hop off the phone, you lost the sale there. 95% of at least 95% of the cases. The other side is like handling or like trying to go right into the objection itself. It gets combative. That's not what you want. You want it to feel collaborative, like we're on the same side of the table. Like, okay, you're telling me that you want all these things and this is what's in your way. Would you like my help with solving that problem?
I need to listen to this call like 500 more times because I have like so many light bulbs going off. The looping, okay, is genius. And I definitely want to get more comfortable with that and doing that, because that makes a lot of sense on how to handle it, and just genuinely wanting to get to the root of it, but doing it in a natural way.
Hmm.
Wow, like I really like how that is laid out, because I do a lot of the other things, even the temp check, all of that stuff I do, but as far as the looping goes and just how to actually get deeper without being super awkward, that makes a lot of sense.
What do you feel has been happening, like with objections in the past? Maybe that's not ideal, or maybe knowing this, what would you have changed about what you were doing before?
Yeah, so I think when people tell me it's the finances, then I'm like, oh, well, we could set up a payment plan, like that's totally fine. Whereas instead, I should refer back to, okay, well, is there any other reason why you wouldn't join the program? What did you like about it? Like, I never did that. I just went straight into like, oh, well, we could do payment plans, which I don't know, maybe sounds a little desperate. um,
You're so
so
smart. See, you know these things. You know them. It's just now a matter of like, now that I know it, what do I do different? So it's
yeah,
like,
exactly. And I knew that I was being awkward and didn't know how to handle it right. But even afterwards, I'm like, how would I have done that different? So that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, there's an infinite amount of like objection rebuttals that you could try and memorize. And, some can work at times, but really, if you just have a solid framework that you just feel comfortable with, 4 steps. They're scared. How do I help them get unscared? First, I'm going to validate them. Hey, it's totally normal to feel a little bit scared. You're in good company. I haven't had anyone, sign up that wasn't a little bit scared. If you don't mind me asking though, like, finances aside, does the process itself even make sense for you? I wouldn't want you to do something that doesn't feel like the right fit. Well, no, it sounds great actually. Oh, well, I'm curious, if you don't mind me asking, then what makes it feel like a fit for you? And notice here my tonality. It's like, oh, cool. Well, I guess if you don't mind me asking, what makes it feel like a fit for you? Well, these reasons. Oh, those reasons. Cool. I totally spaced it, but forgot to mention those little things. There's all these big things too. Pretty cool, right? And at the end of the day, the process, it works. It works 100% of the time for 100% of the people that apply it. Only thing I can't do for you is be committed. But if, like you said, you could show up 3-4 times a week, put in 30 minutes of work, I will make it so fucking simple for you that all you have to do to lose this weight for good is just show up. I will not let you fail. And I promise, like 3 months from now, you're going to call me and we're going to celebrate, with, you're going to call me and we're going to celebrate with, I don't even know what to say now because we can't get together in person, but we'll meet back up on a Zoom call and we'll toast to your success, because I guarantee as long as you show up, I will not let you fail. And chances are we'll have some fun together too. Sound cool?
Yeah, I like the more laxed approach too, which is how I am. And I've, yeah, so I, a lot of times in my head, like, no, this is exactly what you want. And I'm like, I'm not a scam, but how do I like say that without saying that? So that makes things a lot clearer.
What kind of objections tend to come up most for you? Have you noticed a pattern yet, or is it just all over the board here and there?
Yeah, I would say most are just, I need to talk with my husband. And I mean, recently I went through like a major drought and then had a lot of calls, and all of those calls I signed like everybody but one. So I went through like a very good spurt right there. But I would say most were finances, but I was very like, well, I'm very willing to work with you and that kind of thing. So the one below it. That definitely helped me being more nonchalant about it. So yeah, I would say it was more like the husband and I just need to like make sure that works type of thing.
Mm-hmm. So for you, what I want you to do, because I know there's a couple pieces of homework, right? And it's fun because the things that you're dealing with are what I see so many other people dealing with, that like it's just a perfect context for this call. Focus a little bit less on the deliverables in your next couple calls, just so you can feel the power of painting the picture. Instead of the shiny shit, it's all destination. It's Hawaii, not the airplane ride. Then when you're working through objections, keep it simple. Just follow this framework. I do recommend you and everyone else that watches this book 1 to 2 calls with each other just so you can get comfortable. It's a little bit of a new thing. Totally cool. Get comfortable with it. And then the last thing is, as you end every sale, ask, why is it a yes? So anytime someone says yes, I say, why? Why is it a yes for you? Because one, you're going to lock the sale down right there. It's going to help with your conversion rate, because now they're going to tell you all the reasons why it's a yes. Why is a question that gets people to dig their heels in. So you want to use it carefully, and only when it actually like them digging their heels in is to your benefit. So if they say, no, I don't think I'm ready for it. Why not? That'd be a terrible thing to ask. If they say yes, why? Because this is going to then tell you exactly how to keep making those sales. Whatever made it a yes for them becomes your next piece of content.
That is so smart.
Yeah, it's how you create the consistency. So like I was asking if you have pattern objections, because if you have the same thing come up over and over, it becomes content, whether it's good or bad. If you have a whole bunch of spouse objections in a row, your content then gets to be specifically like, taking personal responsibility, respecting yourself, which then adds to your marriage kind of content. And then if you have a bunch of people saying yes for a very specific reason, that becomes your content too. And so what you want to be in the habit of is not just making these like, I think about it like every sales call is like this, like we're right in here. It's very intimate. It's this person. And that's great. But if you spend all your time in here, you can make like 20, 30,000 a month, but you're going to work really hard. If you can be in here and then zoom out, see the bigger picture, the reason why all of those little things were a yes, now I can put this yes content out there and have 20 people reaching out pre-sold because they saw the post that resonated. So always be thinking like, how do I zoom out, see the bigger pattern, and then align my day-to-day actions accordingly.
All right, so let's go through taking notes on sales calls. Now, there is basically a limitless amount of different ways that you could do this. All right, and I've seen everything from paper notes where you've got different colored pens. All right, so like a green pen for what they want, a red pen for what they don't want, and a black pen for everything else, okay, in a regular notebook, to computer notes. And so do whatever is best for you. Okay, we all have our own styles. But in this simple video, I'm just going to show you what I do. And maybe for you, it makes sense to do things the same way. But again, this is one of those things where the way you do it, not all that important. The fact that you do it is important. You always want to have notes taken on your sales calls so that one, you can keep things organized. because the way that you take notes will directly impact the effectiveness of your presentation. Okay, now that's number one. Number two is if the sale doesn't close on the spot, you will be able to then have the context for proper follow-up, because with follow-up, context is key, and you need to have a few key notes taken down so that your follow-up can be effective if you didn't close the sale on the spot. So let me share my screen and I'll walk you through the note-taking framework that you can just duplicate and utilize for your sales calls if you want to do exactly what I do, but I'll also talk you through a couple of the things that you want to take note of so that if you do things differently, for example, on paper, you can still be effective. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Below me, you've got the link to be able to make a copy of this sales call notes template. And every time you click it, it will create a new copy and you can fill in the blanks so that you don't have to rework your own. However, again, like I mentioned, do whatever works for you. Just make sure you do something. Okay, so if you use this, when you copy it, you're gonna have a place to put the person's name, and I suggest having this right up here be their name, okay, along with the outcome. So like, Bill Burr closed, or Bill Burr follow-up needed, right? That way you can compartmentalize and ensure that you're, moving people in your pipeline down the road. And you can also look back at your closed deals and see what kind of congruencies you can find, right? Identifying the pattern so that you can then begin handling objections in your content or the supporting conversion assets prior to the call. That way you make your sales call process more seamless. So you put their name. And again, this is how I do it, right? So I would put their name here, notes, and I'll put the date of the call, and then I'll put the status. So won, lost, follow-up needed, etc. That way you have a really quick, easy reference point. You want to have just a simple folder in your Google Drive for your business so that you have all the data in one place. So I always kept this right up at the top, the remember, all right, to remind me of a few key principles that are important to internalize for all your sales calls, right? Things like people don't want to be handled, they want to feel understood. Reminding myself, am I doing this to be liked or to make a difference? Reminding myself of, I think I can help you, but I'm not sure. Can I ask you a few more questions to be sure? Also, reminding myself, hey, you don't got to be the expert, you just got to solve people's problems. And lastly, be the strong bridge. I'm just here, unwavering. I can get you from one side to the other for a simple toll. Okay. Now I have a simple color coding system. So as I mentioned, if you do things on like paper notes, totally cool. I've seen people love having a color coding system with different pens. Okay. So this would correspond. You'd have, for example, a red pen, a green pen, and then a black or blue pen for everything else. Right. So I've got my 7 questions here that you have already learned from the intel gathering stage of the call training. These are the same questions. This is not new, but this is literally what I will use for sales calls to keep myself in line and on track, but then also have an easy to manage system for follow-up. So in red, it's like, hey, what hurts? So tell me about what's going on. What are you trying to prevent? And I'll just type in blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I've got it there. Oh, and also blah, blah, blah. Oh, and this too? Blah, blah, blah. Got you. Anything else? No, that's it? Okay, let me just make sure I've got that right. This is what's really going on. Cool, got it. Now help me understand, if you would, what do you really want, right? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, also, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's the cost if nothing changes? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to waste the time for you because I respect your time of going through, but essentially you would just duplicate this and utilize this to make a super simple bullet list of what's going on. Okay, that way when you get to your presentation and you're going, hey, so based on the fact that you said this is going on and this problem is a problem because of this and it's causing this pain, well, what we're going to do is solution, and for you that means benefit, and also benefit and benefit. Does that make sense? Do you agree? All right, so this is where you just simply, based on the color, can easily see what it takes to formulate your presentation effectively. So again, this doc is down below, and when you click it, it'll prompt you to make a copy. I suggest saving that copy as a template in your own Google Drive and then just utilizing that going forward, making a copy each time for each call and keeping them inside of a folder, potentially even a couple folders like sales calls, right, as the big picture folder. And then inside of that, you got a folder of one, you've got lost, and you've got follow-up needed, just so that you have a super simple system for keeping everything in order. So let me just zoom back for 1 second before I wrap this up. Let's just say, for example, this call doesn't close and I need to then do some follow-up. Well, you're going to want to drop any other important notes down here right at the bottom. And then when it comes time to follow up, depending on the angle that you're going to take, like a reoffer, for example, hey, name, you've been on my heart this morning. And I remember last time we talked, you were struggling with challenge. And I don't know if you've already found a solution, but if not, I thought of a way that I might be able to get you results with less, and then whatever the constraint was, right? So, hey, Bill, you were on my heart this morning. And I don't know if you already found a solution to the lead gen problem that you were having last time we talked, but I thought of a way that I might be able to help you create a predictable stream of pre-sold leads for a much lower investment. Is that something you might be open to taking a look at? Right? So it gives you all the context that you need for proper follow-up. So go ahead and before you move on to the next one, go down below this video, make a copy of the note-taking template for yourself and try this out on your calls. Again, whether it's paper, whether it's virtual, doesn't matter, just do it. That way, you're not making emotional decisions. You're making data-driven decisions when it comes to your marketing and your sales process shifts. And you don't have to keep all this up in your mind. You can just get it down on paper, out of your brain, and move on to the next opportunity.